Welcome to the deep dive. We take that mountain of information, the articles, the research, all of it, and we distill it down to the essential, actionable insights you really need. And today, we are cracking the code on productivity.
It really is the universal struggle, isn't it? I mean, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. But when you look at high achievers, it almost seems like they're operating with a completely different set of rules. And the cost of getting this wrong, well, it's just getting higher.
I saw some statistics on this that were, honestly, they were pretty worrying. We always talk about hard work like it's a virtue, but the data, it tells a much darker story.
It really does. Some global health research shows that the demands on workers are just increasing all over the world. In 2016 alone, you had 488 million people working 55 hours or more per week. And that's not just, sacrificing a few evenings.
So what's the actual health impact of a schedule that relentless?
Well, compared to people working a standard 35 to 40-hour week, those working 55-plus hours see their risk of a stroke increase by a startling 35%. This isn't just about feeling tired. These are real, tangible health consequences.
Wow, that makes the stakes extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think so many of us, if we're being honest, we end the day feeling just chaotic and busy.
Mm-hmm.
You've answered 1,000 notifications, you've sat through countless meetings, but then you look back and realize you never actually made time for your best work.
Exactly. And our mission for you today is to change that dynamic. We've pulled together these science-backed strategies from top experts, people like Adam Grant, Dan Pink, the team at Google Ventures. The whole idea is to help you stop just reacting to work and start proactively, piloting your own time. We're going to focus on three key things: priorities, boundaries, and structure.
Okay, let's start with priorities then, because
Yeah.
the advice here is it's completely counterintuitive to how I think most of us were educated. We're drilled on setting big goals, smart goals.
Right, the classic SMART goals.
Exactly. But authors like Adam Alter, they argue that traditional goal setting is actually fundamentally flawed. They say high achievers don't focus on goals. They design robust systems.
The problem with a goal is that it's just an end state. It's useful as a signpost, sure, it points you in the right direction, but as a day-to-day motivator, it's terrible. It requires this tremendous amount of willpower to focus on an outcome that's maybe 6 months or even a year away.
So how does Alter define the difference between a goal and a system, How does he make it practical for us?
He gives a great example of a writer. So the goal might be, I want to write a 100,000-word book.
Right.
On a Monday morning, that task just feels paralyzing. It's too big, too distant.
Right.
But the system is, every single morning for 1 hour, I'm going to write 500 words. See? The system is a daily, repeatable activity that if you do it consistently, produces the result you want almost automatically.
The power in that is it shifts your focus away from all the anxiety about the finish line to just feeling proud of the daily action. I want to get into the academic proof for this because it's surprisingly strong.
Yeah, if you look at the research from Latham and Brown, they studied MBA students, and it demonstrated this effect so clearly. One group, they focused only on the distal goal of getting high grades. But the second group, they were trained to focus on applying strategies and systems, so specific process improvements, to learn the material more effectively.
And the result?
The students who focused on improving their strategies or learning system, they achieved significantly better marks than the group that was only focused on the goal of high grades. They weren't fighting for the result, they were mastering the process.
I think the psychological key here has to be that immediate win, that self-reinforcing feeling. When you're looking at a 100,000-word goal, you basically feel like a failure right up until the moment you submit the manuscript. But if your system is just to write 500 words, you hit that mark, and you get that little dopamine spike of success every single day.
It just maintains momentum. A system of, say, 2 focused hours of studying or writing 500 words feels completely feasible. It removes that monumental inertia that big, abstract goals always seem to create.
Okay, so the core actionable takeaway for you listening is this. When you're tackling any major project, a marathon, learning a language, a big work presentation, don't just write down the goal. First, design the daily or weekly process that's going to get you there.
Absolutely. Design the system, put it in your calendar, and this is critical, schedule a midpoint review. And that review isn't to beat yourself up about the goal. It's to analyze whether your system needs a tweak to get you where you want to go efficiently.
So once we have our systems in place, the next challenge is defending them. The modern professional just lives in this state of constant invasion of requests for our time. Which brings us to boundaries. Someone like Adam Grant, the organizational psychologist, he's a well-known giver. He gets asked all the time how he stays so generous without completely burning out.
His solution is it's just genius, and it relies on using what we call heuristics, mental shortcuts. He realized that real strategic success doesn't come from saying yes to everything. It comes from developing these clear, values-based shortcuts for making decisions efficiently.
So he's not saying no based on having too little time, but on maximizing his impact.
Exactly. He focuses his yes on only two areas where he's uniquely positioned to provide the most value. First is knowledge sharing. So he'll dedicate time to answering these really esoteric or complex questions about his research that, not just anyone could answer. Second is mutually beneficial introductions. He connects people across industries who can genuinely help each other out.
So he's turning the act of helping into a strategic advantage, making sure his time is spent where the impact is exponential, not just linear. But what about all the other requests? The meetings, the small tasks, the invitations? That's where I think this other concept comes in. From John Zeratsky.
The iceberg, yes. Oh, this is a perfect illustration of why saying no feels so difficult, especially when it's for a really exciting opportunity. That's the shiny tip of the iceberg that you can see floating above the water.
We see that tip, right? A high-profile speaking gig or a chance to collaborate on a cool project, and we just say yes immediately.
And that is the mistake. Because hidden beneath the surface is the massive bulk of the time commitment. All the preparation, the 4 drafts of the presentation, the travel logistics, the endless follow-up emails, and those inevitable 4-hour-long evening meetings we talked about earlier. That's the 90% of the iceberg you just said yes to.
So how does Zeratsky say we should use this visual to protect our time?
His advice is really tactical. Before you commit to anything, you need to mentally map out all the required tasks hidden under the surface, and then approximate the time for each one. When you see the full, terrifying mass of that iceberg, saying no to the whole thing suddenly gets a lot easier. The goal is to see the true cost, and then, as he puts it, savor the feeling of all the work I won't have to do. That feeling of reclaimed time, it's incredibly motivating.
Okay, so we've established what to prioritize and what to defend our time against. Now let's talk about when we should be doing the work. Most productivity advice just assumes we all function optimally from 9 to 5, but that completely ignores this critical biological factor, our individual chronotype.
Your chronotype is essentially your body's unique, natural 24-hour sleep-wake cycle. It dictates the predictable peaks and troughs in your energy and your cognitive alertness all day long. And trying to force deep work during a natural low point is, well, it's like trying to drive a car uphill without gas. You're just fighting your own biology.
Dan Pink breaks the population down into 3 types, which is really helpful for figuring out where we fit.
That's right. You have the larks, who are the morning people. That's about 10% of the population. They're most alert about 2 hours after they wake up. Then you have the owls, maybe 20% of people who are night people. Their day follows this reverse pattern. They come alive much later.
And the rest of us, the vast majority, we're the middle birds.
Yeah, the 70%. And they generally follow the lark rhythm, just delayed by a couple of hours. The big insight here is that we should stop scheduling our most demanding tasks, what Pink calls deep work, at random times.
So based on this research, what would an optimal day look like for a middle bird like Pink? He wrote his book when using these principles.
The whole structure is built to capitalize on those peak performance hours. So for larks, deep work things that need strategic thinking, analysis, writing that should happen between, say, 7 a.m. and 11 a.m., then that period from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. is better for shallow administrative work. You use that post-lunch trough for the low-load tasks.
And for middle birds,
you just shift it back a bit. Deep work is from about 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. when your brain is still at its peak. Shallow work, low-stakes meetings, those are best from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Owls, being reversed, should probably tackle their shallow work in the early afternoon, maybe 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., and save their deep work for that rebound period, so 4 p.m. onwards.
This is fantastic advice, but here's the real challenge for you listening. How do you actually implement this when you're shackled to a standard 9 to 5?
Yeah.
Where team meetings and email expectations dominate the morning?
That is a really important question. If you're a middle bird or a lark in a 9 to 5, you can't just show up at 4 p.m. So the most effective hack is to protect your first 90 minutes. When Pink talks about scheduling deep work, he's talking about tasks that require full focus, like hitting a 700-word count.
So the first 90 minutes of your workday, whether that starts at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., you have to treat that as non-negotiable focus time.
Precisely. Treat it like a meeting with your most important client, which is your future self. Don't check your email. Don't look at social media. Use that period, which aligns with your peak alertness, to do the one or two things that will move your most important system forward. Then you can push the lower load tasks, the email filing, into that post-lunch trough. It's about optimizing those first critical hours, not changing the entire workday.
This kind of intentional structure is only going to work if we can stop the tiny distracting tasks and just the general mental clutter from derailing our focus time. Let's talk about that administrative noise and indecision.
This is where we can introduce John Zaratsky's solution for administrative clutter, the might-do list.
Yeah.
We all have those nagging, non-urgent tasks, right? Ordering new pens, filing receipt from a trip 3 months ago, figuring out some minor system update. And they always pop into our heads during duck work.
And every single time one of those thoughts pops in, it breaks your concentration.
Yeah.
It forces you to use cognitive energy, deciding if you should act on it now or later.
That's the key psychological cost. The might-do list is only for these non-urgent admin items. And the benefit is this immediate psychological relief. You just write it down, you externalize the task, and your brain is assured you might do it later. It relieves the daily pressure of all those little items just orbiting in your working memory.
So it's not just another to-do list, it's a mental holding tank. And it's designed specifically to protect your focus time.
Exactly. Then, instead of letting those distractions creep in every hour, you schedule a dedicated admin time block. Could be 2 hours on a Friday afternoon or even a full day once a month, and you just batch process everything on that might-do list in one focused, efficient sitting. You conquer the clutter instead of letting it chip away at your focus every day.
That's a massive efficiency gain. Okay, now let's talk about a technique for ending your day that makes starting the next one almost effortless. The Hemingway trick. It sounds like a fun anecdote, but it's actually rooted in some deep cognitive science.
Oh, it's so powerful. The Hemingway trick, or as some people call it, parking on a downhill slope, is all about intentional incompleteness. When you're ending a deep work session for the day, you deliberately stop. Halfway through a sentence, or a slide, or a line of code, you don't reach a natural conclusion.
Why would you intentionally leave a mess? I mean, my instinct is always to finish the section I'm on.
We do that because we're seeking closure, but we can use the brain's own demand for closure to our advantage. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. This is a psychological principle that says incomplete tasks are remembered and held in your subconscious memory far better than completed tasks. Our brain it hates unfinished business.
And the practical application is, because the task is already primed, the engine is running on that downhill slope, you eliminate the inertia that everyone feels when they're facing a blank page or a cold start the next morning.
You don't waste time reviewing where you left off. Your brain has been running the simulation in the background. So when you sit down the next day, you just finish the sentence you started, and the deep work flows immediately. It's a beautifully simple hack for eliminating the single hardest part of focused work, the beginning.
So this deep dive has really shown us how high achievers move beyond just reacting to everything. They switch from abstract goals to daily, achievable systems. They use strategic boundaries like the iceberg. Yes, they schedule their energy using their chronotype. And they protect their focus with the might-do list and the Zeigarnik-powered Hemingway trick.
And if you connect all these strategies together, they really are unified by one purpose, creating the space and the energy to do work that is meaningful to you. This is why we need to move beyond that flawed concept of work-life balance, which, it inherently assumes that work is bad and life is good, so we have to minimize the work part.
Right, and Marcus Buckingham suggests the real goal should be work-life imbalance.
Yes. We should be constantly unbalancing our lives toward the activities we genuinely love. The things that invigorate us, what he calls our red thread activities. There's clinical data that highlights the danger of neglecting these.
What does that research specifically tell us about the need for those red thread activities?
It's a really clear threshold. If less than 20% of your work tasks are these invigorating, fulfilling activities, the red thread, you face a commensurate increase in your risk of burnout. The tasks you love aren't a luxury. They're a necessary preventative measure against total depletion.
So what does all this mean for you? If you adopt these systems and you become time-wise, you will naturally create these new pockets of time and increased energy. So your final challenge is this. Look at your schedule right now, today. What one small red thread activity, something that genuinely brings you joy or moves you closer to your deeper purpose, can you schedule into your calendar immediately?
Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect time. Stop being wasteful of your finite energy. Apply these insights and begin piloting your life toward what truly matters.